after some this is podcast 4, where I talk about image comics. To learn more about me, check out my website. My website is waldenwongart.com. And my Patreon page is patreon.com/waldenwongart. And this is podcast number 4, right over here, based on the Fantastic Four logo, but I'm not talking about Fantastic Four. And this podcast, I'm going to be working on a commission. The commission that I've done is so far, actually it's an inking commission that someone else drew. Here's the artist that drew this, and then I have it partially inked already. But this was brought to you by Queso Comics. They're the company, the publishers that's hiring me to do this commission. And I'm also going to show you guys some of the work that they publish. Here's one of the one of the books they sent me. They actually sent me a bunch of copies of their comics here. So I'm just going to flip through the pages so you guys can see some of this publisher that hired me to work on this commission. And then hey, little JP, how's it going? Good to see you here. Here's some of the comics that the independent publisher sent me, so I can look at it for reference. Hey, One Mighty R, how's it going? It's good to see you. Here's this. Again, they also sent me this book. This one's called The Indestructible Man. This one's called The Infantry Man. Okay, and here's one of the covers that the publisher sent me. And then here's some of the inside. I like the quality of the paper that they printed on. Like, it's like a really nice thick paper. So if you want to know more about this company, Queso Comics, here's more information on them, quesocomics.com. And let's see, there's this, and there's some information on the back. And the owner is Anthony Casio. However you pronounce it, I apologize, Anthony, if you're watching this, if I pronounce your name wrong. Anthony Casiopo, or however you pronounce it. Please type it in the description if you can spell it. And then here's all his information. And again, the publisher, Anthony, he sent me this, and I'm going to be working on this commission. Here's what I have so far. I did all the technical lines first. So I'll use rulers and stencils and French curves and flex curve. So for those of you who don't know what a stencil is, here's stencils. I'll use ovals. I'll use circles like this. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so I can read some of the questions. Okay, and I also use rulers. The ruler I use is this one. I have pennies on the ruler. The reason I put pennies on a ruler is so it is beveled. So when I ink, ink doesn't run underneath. And I like using a ruler that's clear. So if I put this on like the artwork and I'm inking lines, I can actually see through what's there. Additionally, not only that, but when I ink certain lines, I can actually move my ruler on top while the ink is still dry and it's just going through the lines like that. Okay, that way I can ink a little bit faster. A French curve is something like this. This there is a French curve. Okay, for longer curves, I'll just use something like this and I'll draw the line there. Usually, sometimes I'll draw the whole line, but if I match a certain line here, I'll just do a little bit at a time. And then this is a flex curve. This one's a flex curve. So a flex curve is basically a ruler that you can flex it. Okay, and this here, one side is beveled. I don't know if you can see it. Let me hold it to the side like this. One side does a little bit of a lip there, so when you're inking, it doesn't ink seep underneath. Let me see if there's any questions so far. Let me see. So as I do these podcasts, I'll answer questions, and then if I answer all the questions, I can also talk about what the subject is. So I'm going to be talking about how I started working for Image Comics. Hello, Walden. Glad it's working. Hey, Kai, how's it going? Good to see you here. One Mighty R, good to see you here. Kai. Also, you should wait a little to give people some time to join next time. Glad to see you're doing well. Yeah, actually, I started the podcast from a video, but there was some technical difficulties, and then I ended it, and I started another one. But I haven't started inking yet. I haven't started talking about how I worked in Image, so there's some time. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like a great quality. Yeah, thank you, One Mighty R. Good quality for the publisher that hired me to do this. So I don't know if they're hiring me to do this as one of the covers, or it's just like a pinup, or it's just like a personal collection. But work is work, and then we'll just ink it up. Anthony Polson, I think the no no Greg Polson is the person who penciled this. I got the pencil files. I converted to blue lines, and after converting blue lines, I'm inking it now. See, Squidness wrote, "Hey Squidness, how's it going? Good to see you here." Kai, he did, but there were some tech difficulties. So like it did warn when he restarted them. Yeah, I had some technical difficulties. Stencils, good idea with the pennies. I'm gonna try that. The pennies work well. Like these stencils I have over here, it's already beveled. Like if you can see these little dots there, there's like these little dots. If you buy stencils and it doesn't have these dots, what I would do is I would kind of buy some coffee stirs, or just get some coffee stirs wherever, and then just tape them to here. Okay, just tape them. That way you create your own beveled edge on some of these stencils, because not all stencils come with these little beveled little notches on them. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Let's see. Stencils, good idea with the pennies. I'm gonna try that. My apologies for the correction. No problem. No worries. Yeah, flex joint is good. Okay, so now what I'm using, this is a Pentel Aquash brush. Okay, for those of you who are watching for the first time, this is actually used where people fill this with water, and what they do is they'll squeeze the water, and then they'll use this to do watercolor painting, or they'll use this for watercolor pencil brushes. Watercolor pencil brushes is when they have like color pencils that are watercolor. They'll just draw it on there. After they draw that on, they'll just squeeze this barrel with water. Water comes out, and you just kind of like smudge it, and then that's how you make your watercolor pencil looks like pencils, looks like watercolors. So a long time ago, before comic booking, a lot of artists, they'll use regular brushes like Raphael brushes or Winsor Newton brushes, and I was using those for a good amount of time. But those brushes, they're very expensive. They're like $25 a pop. So one time I was in San Francisco, Japantown, in this stationery store, and they had some of these brushes. So I figure I'm just gonna buy some of those brushes and see how they go. And I was the first inker that started using these brushes. Everyone else was using these Winsor Newton brushes or Raphael brushes, all these expensive brushes. Even the inkers group, everyone was talking about how do I take care of these brushes? I need to shampoo them, condition them, because those brushes were made of sable hair, like horse hair. So they're like almost like real hair. So you really need to take care of those brushes. So I was using this for a long time, and no professional inker or artist was using this. And for a while there, I noticed no one else was using it. So I decided to make a YouTube channel, which is this channel that you're watching now. And I decided to just make videos of me using this brush here. So when I started using this brush, after a few years later, people would ask me, "Hey Walden, what kind of brush is that?" Like, it wasn't just anyone who was watch my videos, but there would be other comic book professionals who would also watch my YouTube videos. So I would just tell them, this is a Aquash brush. It's a watercolor Aquash brush. Okay, so when I bought these in Japantown. This was before they started selling these in the American market. You can see that it's still like, this is the brush from Pentel. When it got popular, they started selling these in the American market, but this is one of the original first ones. I bought a case of them because when I bought them, they were like $4 each, and a case at 12. And I bought like a few cases, and they're still lasting me for a long time. That's how durable these brushes are. But if you want to get them, you can order them on Amazon. It's only like maybe like $4 each, very cheap, and you really don't need to clean them. You just dip them in brush, and then you just start inking. Sometimes they'll dry out. So when it does dry out, what I'll usually do is I'll take the brush. Imagine this is dry. I'll just crack it until it opens up. And once it's cracked, I'll just go in there and I'll just dip the brush and continue using it again. So I'll dip the brush into the ink, and I'll continue using them again without cleaning the brush or anything like that. Let me see if there's any questions. See, I ordered your upcoming Immoral X-Men #1. It looks really sick. Yeah, thanks, little JP. Immoral X-Men came out this Wednesday, new comic book day. I went to the comic book store and I saw it. And the store I usually go to is in San Francisco, and they're called Isotope Comics. And they had a few, like a whole bunch of copies right on the counter. When I walked in there, I said to James, James is the store owner. I said, James, why are you putting all these out here? Is it because I'm you just trying to like toot my horn? And he goes, no, you're not. I'm not trying to toot your horn. This is one of the more exciting copies that are coming out this week. They also had some Superman up there and some other books, but then I was impressed that he ordered so many. So that was nice to see my book before I get copies. Marvel Comics doesn't send me comps until like three months later. So it was nice to see that at a comic book store. But truth be told, I work in comics and I do the original art. Sometimes after I'm done working on it, I don't really want to look at it anymore because I'll spend like months and months working on it. So I'll just pick it up and do a quick glance and see how everything look in publishing and colors are okay, and then I just put it back down. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. See, Squidness wrote, do you ever get burnt out of drawing? I don't get burnt out of drawing because I just enjoy drawing and inking and doing art a lot. Besides working in comics, I also teach art. So that is just, for me, it's fun. Ever since I was a kid, I remember my kindergarten teacher had, some of you who have been following my channel may know this story. Ever since I'm going to zoom in closer so y'all can see more of the details. So for those of you who are just listening to the podcast, feel free to just listen. But for those of you who want to pick up tips, you can watch how I ink certain lines and how I render details and do taper lines and so on. I remember when I was a kid in kindergarten class, I specifically remember that the reason I remember this is because the teacher had a parent-teacher conference, and then my dad went to talk to my kindergarten teacher, and then the teacher said, "Hey," to my dad, he said, "I don't think your son is ready to move on to first grade. We may need to keep him another year and do second grade." Because I was born on December, right in the middle of the cutoff from one year to another. So dad said, okay, we'll just keep him for next year to continue school. And then the teacher said, and I remember this specifically, the teacher said, if anything, well, at least he draws really well. Okay. Like I was drawing since kindergarten. I may have been drawing before that. And then later on, like I just thought, okay, my teacher said I draw well, so maybe I should just draw well, especially since she said I wasn't really good with like academics in kindergarten. So I drew and drew and drew, and I kept drawing. I remember my dad was telling me, hey, why are you always drawing? Why don't you like draw? Well, when my dad spoke to me in Chinese, I'm Chinese for those of you who don't know, and writing and drawing is like, I don't know. I guess when I was a kid, I just thought writing and drawing was the same vocabulary, like the way it's spoken. But anyway, let's just say writing and drawing was the same word, especially when I was a kid. So my dad said, "You're always drawing. Why don't you draw with letters and numbers?" So what he was saying was, "Why don't you draw uh, with like with learning how to write sentences or things like that?" Again, this was when I was in kindergarten. I remember specifically all of this because it was something that I thought I was good at drawing. So what I've done was actually drew with letters and numbers. So I'm going to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So as a kid, I would try to draw with letters and numbers. So I started drawing things such as like, okay, here's the letter O, here's the letter P, here's the letter J, here's the letter H, and I would try to make them look like people. Okay, here's the letter U, here's the letter V, and then here's the letter like different letters, or the letter P here, and then the letter O here, and the letter like another J here. I would try to make up something that will look like artwork with letters and numbers. Okay, and that's why I developed this thing where I learned how to draw with basic shapes. Drawing with basic shapes is like a square, triangle, circle, and cylinder. So even since I was a young age, I started drawing with letters, trying to create images in my head. So I started drawing, and then I've just been drawing ever since. I've been drawing since I was kindergarten. And I remember I wasn't really that good in academics, going through high school, college. But every time I had art class or anything like that, I would do really well. I guess I did some kind of art when I was in elementary school and middle school, but I don't really remember too much of it. It's just like you don't really think too much; you just draw as a kid. But it wasn't until high school when I let me get some ink. Okay, I'm gonna dip some ink. And usually when I dip ink, I don't really dip in front of the camera. I'm gonna dip it in front of the camera, so those of you who are watching how frequently I dip ink will know. So I just dip it in here, and I'll just continue using it. Let me see if there's any other questions. Yeah, so I don't really get burnout. To me, drawing is something that is like breathing, I guess. When I first became a comic book professional, working for all the publishers, I did have a little bit of burnout. It's only because I wasn't used to working on those deadlines. But after working in comics for a good few years, I got used to what a deadline was and what it takes to finish a project. I remember some of my earlier deadlines for Marvel, working on a Mutant X over a penciler. Who was the penciler? Tom Rainey, and he was drawing pages, and I had to turn in like 5 pages within 3 days. So what I've done was just stay up for 3 nights no sleeping, and just to get the work done. I remember on the third night, my everything, like my eyes were getting blurry and I couldn't really see that well. Breathing was a little bit harder, and this is when I was like maybe 19 years old or something, or 19 or 20 years old, or something like that. I don't remember exactly what age, but it was one of my first earlier works at Marvel, working on Mutant X. So after knowing what a deadline was, I started figuring out, okay, I need to really pace myself, especially working in comics. If I goof around and I don't finish the work in time, that means I'm gonna have to pick it up later, and I would lose sleep. So from then on, I would like gauge myself and make sure if I'm given a project that has 5 days to finish, I would count how many pages that I have to do, and then I would ink it accordingly. Okay, if I can do, like, for example, 5 pages in 5 days, then that means I must finish at least 1 page a day. Sometimes I'll get like 10 pages in 5 days, and then I give myself a deadline of 2 pages a day. If I can get more pages done sooner, then that's like extra credit bonus. But if not, then I would have to stay up longer. If I can get the pages done, then I would get to sleep and I can rest some more. Let's see. One mighty, or I hope that answers your question, Squidness. Feel free to ask any questions, because I really enjoy talking to everyone that views my live stream, and then also responding to questions. But if the questions run out, I just start talking about like other stuff. See, hope that answers your question, Squidness. One mighty art. You got skills with the brush. I'm still trying to get comfortable with it. Yeah. I can tell you, when I first started working in comics, the first thing I started using with inking was these Reputograph pens. I actually got them from well, not this one, but this is like a new one. I actually started using these when I was in college, and then I would do college projects, and I thought like, okay, this is used with ink. I'm just going to start inking with this, and those were like some bad ink work. So I started using that. Later on, I met some professional artists, and they said you really need to master how to use a crow quill. This crow quill took me almost like a year to learn how to use this well. Okay, so I started inking with this, and I started getting independent work, and I was using a crow quill. And it wasn't until I met like another comic book artist, Paul Smith. He said, instead of using quill, because he asked me to ink a Justice Society of America, JSA, Justice Society of America, trading card over his pencils for DC Comics. I remember in the trading card there was like Doctor Fate or Wildcat, and a bunch of a few other characters. I think if you do a Google search, you type in Walden Wong and Paul Smith, and then JSA trading card, you might find that image. But anyway, Paul said, instead of inking this work with a quill, why don't you try using a brush? And I did not know how to use a brush at the time. I didn't have any brushes. The only brush I had was maybe some of those watercolor brushes that came with the watercolor sets that you buy. So I would talk to Paul and say, what I need to get? And he said, buy a Winsor Newton. Buy a Winsor Newton and then start inking with that. And I was so horrible. I hated using a brush. I did not like using a brush at all. But it took me maybe another year to understand how to use a brush. And when I was using the brush, I was also showing my art to other artists along the way. There would be like, so over on my I should talk about this. Over on my Patreon, I do mentorships for people who join, and then I'll critique the work. And a lot of times, I know for those Patreons, like it helps them because every time they'll come back to a certain area of inking, they'll be reminded of what I taught them. Now, this is what happens when someone teaches you something for the first time and you realize that this is what's helping you. Because when I was inking, Paul said to me, he said, when you're inking, make sure you use the force. And I said, what do you mean use the force? That sounds like something from Star Wars. He goes, when you're inking, try not to be too meticulous. Try to relax your hand a little bit. Because when I was inking, like I mentioned earlier, during my early years of working professionally in comics, I was inking, holding the ink pens like I was holding a pencil. You know how when you're drawing with a regular pencil, and you're holding it really hard, because that's all our lives ever since we were a kid. We're trained to hold a pencil, and if we want to draw darker, we press down harder. We want to draw lighter, we press down lighter. With inking, that's not the case. It's really about pressure control. You want to see how hard you press your, I guess it's the same. Like you hold the brush, how much you apply and how hard you press down and ease up, but you don't grip. You don't hold this really tight. You just hold it really softly, and then you control the brush softly. Okay, I need to dip some ink. After a while inking, I could kind of feel what using a brush for a long time. I could kind of feel when it's time to dip ink because the inks are kind of gray here. So when it's gray, I'll just dip a little bit of ink over here. Okay. Now I'm going to continue inking. So yeah, so learning the brush, I did take. I remember inking an issue of Stargate, like the movie Stargate. The publisher that hired me was NTT Comics, and they asked me to ink some Stargate. And I said, you know what? They're paying me. I'm gonna ink Stargate. I'm gonna practice using the brush to ink this, and like I have nothing to lose. They're paying me, and I'm making it, and I'm just gonna try learning how to ink with a brush while I'm getting paid to do some ink work. And I remember inking these pages on Stargate, and it was so horrible. The publisher was really nice. He said, it looks good. But to me, it was really horrible because I couldn't control the brush. Like what I'm doing now, back then when I first started, I couldn't do. Okay. And there's a few more tips that I'm going to mention how I do this. Okay. So what this penciler here, Greg Polson, this penciler here, he draws a lot of these taper lines. The taper lines are these lines that forms a tip that goes into the black. Okay. Now, some artists, they'll just draw that line and they'll just draw perpendicular lines there. So your job as an inker is to close up those lines. You don't want to ink those lines like say this is the black area and you just want to ink it like that. It does not look good. Or you're inking those lines that you're just going perpendicular like that. You see all these little rectangles. You don't want to do that. What you want to do when you're tapering lines is to close up those lines. So when I say close up those lines, what that means is you're going to ink a line like this, and then you're going to push down and close them up. This way, you have a nice sharp tip in the front of the inks, and then as it closes, you have a nice sharp white tip. See that? The negative space? It's a nice tip. Okay. You want that to also be consistent. So when I say consistent, you don't want the tips to be one longer here and one shorter here and one here and one here and one there. You want them to align nicely, like soldiers. Okay, like soldiers in the battlefield. One time I spoke, and I was doing this. Okay, I spoke to another editor at DC Comics. This is the editor that hired me to work on JLA, Justice League of America. When he was telling me when I first started working with him, he said, "Walden, your lines are kind of like jumpy, your taper lines. You should make it more consistent." And I said, "What do you mean when you say consistent?" And he didn't really know how to describe it. I said, just inconsistent. I said, what do you mean? Like consistent, like as if a printer printed those lines out? And he goes, yeah, like a printer printed out, like gradients. And then once he said gradients, and once I said, printing it like a printer, that's when I understood. Like you want patterns in your ink lines. You want them to look as like as neat as possible and organic at the same time. So like when I'm inking these taper lines, like for example over here, I don't follow exactly what the penciler says. I look at the form, the overall form of the figure, and then I'll enhance it. Like for example, like here, I'll just ink this line and make this longer, and I'll press down, and I'll go here, I'll press this down here, here, and then here. Okay. Again, I know this is a podcast, and some of you are interested in hearing the stories, but sometimes I get excited about some of the stuff that I'm demonstrating, teaching, and I just go off on a tangent. Okay, so yeah, so that's using a brush. Let me see if there's any other questions. Grounds. This is kind of, let's see. Let me go back to read some of the questions. See, When Muddy R wrote, that's interesting, bro. Must be a good feeling to see your books up on front and display. Yeah, I do like seeing, sometimes I'm at the comic book store, I'll see books that I worked on, especially when it's new and it's kind of exciting. Or like if you go to like the stores and you see some of the books that you worked on, like graphic novels and such, that's a nice feeling. Or if you go to a public library and all of a sudden you'll see something that you work on, it's a kind of like an exciting feeling. Sometimes you don't even have to go to a comic book store or whatever store. You just go to a regular bookstore and then you see your stuff there. Or I've even gone to like Costco. I don't know if you guys, if everyone know what a Costco is. It's kind of like a Sam's Club in the East Coast. I've gone to Costco and I'll see these Marvel encyclopedias and I'll just thumb through it, because you work in comics. Anytime you see anything that's comic book related, you just want to take a look at it. And I'll thumb through those Marvel encyclopedias or DC comics, like everything you need to know about, during Christmas or something. And I'll flip through the credits. That's one thing I like looking through. I'll flip through the credits and then I'll see my name back there, like as one of the contributors for some of the artwork that's in there. And that's a nice feeling too. And then when I'm with like family or friends or whoever I'm with, I say, hey, look, check out the credits. And I'll point to my name and it's kind of fun. Or like sometimes I'll go to Japantown, and like again, some of you may know this and some of you may not know this. I also, besides working for Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Dark Horse, Image, or whatever, I also do work for Viz Media. So sometimes I'll go to a Japanese bookstore and then they'll have all these manga and stuff. I'll just pick up some books and I'll say, hey, look at this. This is my name on some of the books here, and that's a fun feeling over there. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Let's see, let's see. See, When Muddy R wrote, same, I've been drawing since I can't hold a pencil. That's good. Yeah, for those of us who've been drawing since we were a kid, we just love drawing. It's something that doesn't feel like work. Like Squidness asked me earlier, do you ever get burned out? I don't get burned out. If I wasn't working in the comics and I had like a regular job, like working in a bank or something, I would still be drawing for the fun of it. Because to me, drawing is very therapeutic and calming. It's just something that I don't think it's not like I know it's a job for me. Like, I mean, it's a career and I'm making money from it. But, it's something that it's just part of me or part of your personality that you just enjoy drawing. It just so happens that I'm like working as someone who draws or ink. It's a nice feeling. So it's like a hobby that became a career. and it's not a hobby anymore. It is work. Let's see. I, one time I was looking at social media and I saw someone posting and they were saying, "This is not a hobby. A hobby is something that you do on the side. This is something I do regularly. I would say my hobby is something like eating because I eat on the side, and this art thing is something that I do every day. Well, this is a hobby that became work for me, and then I'm very grateful for my career. Okay, let me see some of the other questions. Let's see. Sometimes I wish these let's see. Joe Lil JP Joe Dan wrote, Walden, did you make a New Year's resolution? Happy New Year, Walden and chat. I did make a New Year's resolution. I don't know if any of you guys want to hear my New Year's resolution. I did make a New Year's resolution, but it has nothing to do with artwork or anything like that. I don't know if I should talk about it. It's totally irrelevant. You know what? Since you asked, Lil JP, I'm gonna talk about it. So I did make a New Year's resolution, and that was to exercise more. So I've been actually since 2001, I have been going to the gym, but I decided for this new year, I'm gonna go twice as much. So before I would go like 3 times a week to the gym, and now I'm going. So how much am I? 3, 6, 3, 6, 7, 8. I've been going a minimum of set. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, 8 times a week, Mondays to Friday. Um, Once on Mondays, once on Fridays, and then Tuesday through Wednesday, I've been going twice, and then maybe an hour each time, or hour through an hour and a half each time. So I have been working out, doing cardio and doing weights and all that, and it's starting to get fun. Like when I first started doing the gym thing, I didn't really want to do that, like because you're all like like as an artist, I haven't really actually done the like as an artist you're self-conscious about it, all that. But now since I've been doing the gym thing for over a year, I'm very comfortable with it. I don't really like, I enjoy it. I actually look forward to going to the gym and working out, lifting weights and doing cardio and all that is actually something that I look forward to doing a lot these days. So that's my New Year's resolution. Not so much as in losing weight or getting like losing weight or getting buff or anything like that. It's just something just fun. So that was the New Year's resolution. Let me see if there's any other question. Hope that answers your question. I know it's totally irrelevant from drawing and stuff. See, Leggy Share. Hi, Leggy Share. Thank you for joining me here on the podcast. It is really a great pleasure to watch how the comic book artists, use this drawing tools to get things done. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you are enjoying this. I have a lot of tutorials and demos and where I actually talk about each process as I'm making. Like for example, if I'm making here, I would talk about I'm pressing down, pressing down, pressing down. I'll go back and I'll ink that part and I'll pivot the paper and I'll just ink the line. I'll ink the top line first, like that. Okay. So some of my tutorials that I'm doing, I'll actually verbalize what I'm doing as I'm inking it, as I'm drawing. I'll actually verbalize what my hands are doing, what my left hand is doing. But for this one, this is my podcast where I try to tell stories so other comic book artists or other any kind of artist that wants to hear anything about the comic book industry can listen to me as they draw, or if they just like if they're on the bus or if they're commuting and they want to hear stories, they can like download this and then listen to it as podcast. This is my 4th podcast, and I plan to do more because a lot of viewers were excited about the podcast. I was actually surprised how people really want it, because when I look at the views, it isn't that many views, but I guess people are interested, so I'm gonna be making more podcasts. Let's see. Let me see if there's any other free questions. Kai, this is kind of off topic, but I have been kind of really into the Tostomu Nihi recently. See, Totomu Nihi recently creator of Blame, and Q Hayashida creator of Dio, you know, Diro Hiro. I like that book. I like the artwork on that too. Yeah, I have a few volumes of that. I love how these things feel more like sketches and blames back. Yeah, thanks, Kai. The grounds are amazing background. Yeah, that book that you mentioned, I also like the art on it. It's more sketchy, and then there's a lot of speed lines. So I'm a comic book artist. Not only do I look at Western comics, I also look at like a lot of manga because I think manga and any kind of comics, any kind of art in general, you can get inspiration from. It doesn't always have to be like look at Marvel comics all the time, look at a DC comics all the time. As long as it's images, what you're looking at is the artwork and how people are drawing it. A lot of times, I'm looking at comic book art, and I don't even read the story. I'm just looking at the way an artist is drawing the characters, so I can see their approach and then see if I can incorporate some of their style into my work. Yeah, I really like looking at art, especially art books where it doesn't have colors and everything is in black and white. I enjoy one of the recent books that I recently got in the comic book store is the Batman Spawn Unplugged, where they removed all the colors and lettering. And it was Greg Capullo, the penciler, and it was inked by Tar McFarlane. So that is fun to look at. So I'll look at it. I'll look in really close, make sure I can study the work, and then I can incorporate that into my work. So I've been inking comics, working in comics for many years, and even now I still feel like I'm still an artist that's constantly learning. I don't want to be an artist that just stops learning. So I'm constantly learning as many skills and drawing techniques as I can. Anytime there's like a new artist that's up and coming, I want to learn how to do that with Photoshop. I want to learn how they did that with certain tools or certain programs. I want to learn how art is created. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Grounds are amazing. Thanks, Kai, I guess. One Mighty R. At one point, the comics trading cards was super lit. Yeah, comic trading cards was very, very lit at one point. Marvel was doing all these Marvel masterpieces. Image Comics was doing it. Like everyone was doing trading cards. I don't know about now. Now, not so much, but they were doing all these hollow foil cards. I was even buying. I remember buying all these cards, and I was buying. I wasn't even just buying packs. I was buying the whole box just so I can complete sets. I remember buying a bunch, and I used to work at the pizza store at the time. I would buy like a whole box, and I would go to work, and then I would be in the pizza parlor with my cousin because my cousin was the person that opened up that pizza parlor, and I would be there, and we weren't working. Anytime it was slow, we would just be sitting around, opening up packs of cards, and then putting them in order because it was just fun putting them in order. Those trading cards. Yeah, and some of those cards they go for good money, especially these days. There's a comeback. People are liking the cards again. It died down for a while, but now people are liking it, and then they're I gotta get back in camera. Okay, let's see. Trading cards. Okay, Lucky Share. Thanks for sharing tips for inking. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for watching my video, listening to my podcast. Again, if you're new to this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. So anytime I do like a new podcast or live feeds, I should mention all my podcasts, they're going to be located into my live section. So it's going to be there. All the videos will be under the video section on YouTube. So for those of you who don't know how to look for it, just click the live and then you'll be able to find, actually you click video and then click the live section and then you'll see all my podcasts and also some of my other live videos. Okay. And let's see. Look at share. Juan Pablo S78. You do digital too? Yes, I also do digital artwork. So when I do digital artwork, I'll use Photoshop, especially if I need to color something, I have to do digital. Like I'll color digitally on Photoshop. Sometimes I'll ink on Photoshop. I'll do art touch-ups, artwork on Photoshop. So digital and traditional, they're both, to me, it's both the same. I've been using Photoshop for for many, many years, for as long as I remember. So I know how to use Photoshop really well. I know how to do digital art really well. Some of my, I like when you see all these blue lines over here. Penciler sends the gray files, and then I would take it and convert it. I was one of the inkers who first started doing blue lines. If you search up how to print blue lines, you'll find my blogger post. So old, the blogger post. Okay, that blog is something that I created because all my other inker friends at the time did not know how to create these blue lines, like how to create these blue lines. Now, let me explain what these blue lines are. Blue lines is when we're scanning the artwork, it doesn't pick up any of the blue. You can knock them out and it'll pick up all the blacks. Because when we're working in comics, a long time ago, we used to ink over original pencils. And after inking original pencils, we have to erase the pencils. But that would take time to do because the penciler would send the inker through FedEx or whatever, priority mail or post office or whatever. They'll send the artwork, and when it gets sent in the mail, it does take at the quickest 1 day, like FedEx priority next day. Like say someone from New York who's a penciler, they would send artwork to the inker who lives in say California, San Francisco, like me, and the artwork. I would just have to wait a day. And then once I get the artwork, then I can start working on it. Or worse, if the artwork is penciled by someone overseas, like for example, my friend Carlo Barberi, who's currently drawing Spawn right now. We used to work on Deadpool together, Amazing X-Men. We did a lot of work together. Now, when back then, he would send me actual physical pencils, and then I would have to wait on it. And he lives in Mexico, and it would have to go through customs, and sometimes that would take 4 days before it gets to me. So because it took so long, we would lose inking time. So that would eat into the deadline. So later on, publishers said, is there a way to get these work done faster and also save money at the same time? So we created something called blue line inking, where the penciler scans the pencils. After the pencil scan, they'll just email or upload the file to a file transfer protocol or like Dropbox or something like that. And then the inkers will get it. We'll get that artwork the moment it's uploaded. That's how fast it is. So the moment the penciler is done scanning and sending to me, I can actually start inking it within a few minutes. Okay, because I will have to convert the grays to like a light blue. And not only that, it will save publishers a lot of money from shipping artwork back and forth. Because back then, we would ship artwork to and from the penciler and inker. After the artwork is done, the inker, myself, we would have to send all the artwork back to the publisher. We send that. Why do we send it back to the publisher? Why? Why do we need to do that? We used to send it back to the publisher because the publisher had the FedEx account, and then we would use their account, FedEx account, DHL account, or whatever, UPS account, whatever. We would send it back, and then Marvel would hold on to it. After it's published, they would send the artwork back to the penciler and the inker. And because the inks were on the original pencils, that artwork needs to be split. So usually the penciler will get 2/3 of the original art and the inker will get 1/3. Now, how do you split a cover back then? So cover, every third cover the inker worked on, he gets a third cover. So the pencil will get 2/3 of the cover, and then the inker will get the third of it. Okay, the part 3 of the thirds. Okay, now what if the penciler only drew 2 covers for that book? Or what if he only drew 2 covers for the book? Well, if he only drew 2 covers, that means the inker only gets 2 covers. No, I'm sorry. That means the pencil gets both the covers, and then the inker only gets one of the covers. So the inker does not get any covers. That's the case with a majority of interior work too. Back then, when we had to send the artwork back to Marvel or DC, actually, I should talk about how it used to work back then, so all of you would know, compared to what was before and what was now. So artwork was sent back to Marvel. Marvel, and this is the thing with Marvel. Marvel would break up the pages, and then they would send, say, like 22 pages. 22 pages. They would send 6 of the pages back to the inker, and majority of the time, the good pages would go to the penciler because they want to keep the penciler happy. So when I say good pages, it would be like splash pages or double page spread or pages that have some of the main character, and then the inker would get like whatever leftover pages, and those pages would be like, oh, just a background, buildings, or stuff like that. I know it's not fair, but what can you do? Like, you're just an inker, and then you just get whatever is given to you. The reason for that, and which is understandable, is because Marvel wants to keep the penciler happy, so they will send them the good pages. DC Comics does it differently back then. So back then, DC Comics, once they get the artwork back, they do the split based on even number issues or odd number issues. So if it's an odd number issue, the pencil will get the first 2/3. So that's like page 1 to page whatever the 2/3 is. So if it's like 22 pages, it's like what 22 pages divided by 3, say 7. So pencil would get pages 1 to 15, and then the inker would get 16 to 22, the last of it. Now, if the issue number was an even number, then the inker would get the first third of the book. So in a way, it was more fair. So sometimes with some of the DC work, I would actually get like nice splash pages or the beginning pages, or sometimes the last page of the book is like a nice splash page, and I would get books like pages like that. So those were kind of nice. So with DC, it was kind of like more fair. So that was the art returns when we were doing original art for Marvel and DC. These days it's different. So when I'm inking pages in blue line like this, once I'm done, none of these blue line pages goes back to the publishers. Actually, there's another story. I should tell all you guys about this the blue line thing, this whole blue line debacle that happened. But before I get on to that, let me talk about blue line. So once I'm done, the penciler keeps all the pencils that they scan, and then the inker keeps all these original inks. We don't send anything back and forth unless you want to talk to the penciler, or the penciler wants to talk to the inker and they want to sell pages like a set or something. But otherwise, like for myself, like once I'm done, like for example, Immoral X-Men, Immoral X-Men was 20 pages. I only inked like 17 because of deadlines, and then my friend Victor Olabaz, wow, apologies if I spent your, I know how you spell your name, but I don't know how to pronounce your name. My buddy Victor inked the 3 pages, so out of the 70 pages that I inked, I keep all 70 pages. None of that leaves me. What I can do is I can keep that, or I can sell it, or I can give to friends, and it's totally okay. Okay, penciler doesn't get any of the blue line ink. So the stuff that you see inked in the comic books are the stuff that the inker worked on. The penciler will sell some of the original pencils, but then they're not the original printed pieces. Some collectors, they're picky. They want to collect artwork that's inked on original pencils, but just the other day, a collector contacted me and asked, "Oh, how do I get a hold of Paco Medina's artwork for Immoral X-Men, which is the issue that I just worked on?" Sometimes, if people know what I'm working on, they'll contact me, and they already want to buy the artwork before it's even sold. He contacted me and said, "How do I get a hold of pencils from Paco Medina, who is the person who penciled in more X-Men?" And I had to say, "I'm sorry, I don't think Paco actually draws on pencil anymore. He's a digital artist. He draws on like digitally, and he sends me the digital files, and then I ink traditionally on paper." So with all the Immoral X-Men pages, I'm the only, well, aside from Victor, my friend Victor, who inked those 3 pages, I'm the artist that has 70 pages of actual physical original artwork. Now, for earlier, yes, I do digital. Yes, I can actually go and ink those pages in digital, which will make my life much easier because digital I can just ink the outline and fill everything in black. But I like inking traditionally. I like inking traditionally because I like the feel of having the actual Bristol board, and then when I'm done, you can have an actual page that you can like keep or sell or do whatever you want, frame and then like give to friends or whatever you want. But if I did that digitally, then I don't have that original artwork. So I like when I'm doing professional work, I do like working traditionally just so I have the actual piece of artwork. Sometimes I'll do like certain covers or and then if I don't really want to keep it, then I'll do that completely on the computer. Let's see, let me ink this piece here. Let me see if there's any other questions. And I'm gonna go through everyone's questions, so don't worry. Let's see. Thanks for sharing tips. You do the okay. Joe, little JP wrote. Joe, that did you ever collect Pogs? They were big for a little while there. I almost collected Pogs, especially when there was Spawn Pogs. Though, but I stopped myself from buying because I didn't really understand what a Pog was. I mean, I knew what a Pog was. It was like these soda cap, like these soda cap underlings. Like you open up a soda bottle, you have a cap, and underneath this cap, you have this round disc that's like like a round disc that people take them out and they used to use that to play games. I didn't really play the game, so I didn't really collect it. But I do have one Pog, which was like a Spawn coin. I gotta make sure I stay in camera. But I do have one Pog, which is a Spawn top and frontline Pog because I'm a fan of Spawn. Let me angle this a little bit better so everyone can see. But I do have that because that coin Pog was, I guess, to play the game. The Pog game was when you have two Pogs and you use like a slammer, which is like a coin. You slam the Pogs like these little round cardboard caps. You slam it, and then one is just like on the top and one is on the bottom. You kind of keep the Pog or something. But I didn't collect any. But I knew it was hot back then. I wasn't buying that. It was either you buy Pogs or you buy trading cards. I was more into the trading cards. Let's see. See. Hey, the art of Chemis. How are you? Thank you for joining me here. Good to see you. Let's create. Hello, Mr. Wong. Finally catch you live. Yes, I'm doing a podcast right now. That's a nice drawing. Did you draw this? No, I didn't draw this. Greg Polson drew this. Like in the beginning of the video, this is one of the commissions that I'm working on. Publisher, I don't know if this is going to be a commission or a cover. The publisher that contacted me, here's the publisher's info, Castle Comics. They publish books such as this Indestructible Man. Here's one of the books. And here's another book in Infantryman. They contacted me and asked me to work on this image right here. And I don't know if it's going to be a cover or interior page or whatever. I'm just going to ink it first, and then doesn't matter if it's a cover or whatever. It's inking. It's inking. So what I'm doing is I'm just inking it. Greg Polson is the person that penciled it. What's funny is there's a whole story on this too. I don't know if I'm gonna get to the Top Cow Image Comics, but it's okay. Hopefully you're all still enjoying this. I mean, sometimes I'll create a topic for my blog and I won't get to it because I'm just enjoying talking about everything that whatever pops up to mind. Greg Polson. Okay, so the person that contacted me to do this is the owner of this company, Castle Comics. His name is Anthony. Okay, Anthony contacted me and asked me to ink a commission piece, and on that signature that he bought, I think he bought like an artwork on eBay, and he didn't know who it belongs to. Okay, and it was a character that this artist drew, and this was the only signature lot on there. This is how this person signs his name, a G and a square. He asked me, Walden, do you know who worked on this? But anyway, it doesn't matter if you know or not, but can you ink it? It was okay. I remember the character. I think the character was Orion from DC Comics. Yeah, it was Orion. And then he contacted me and I said, sure, I'll ink it. And I told him, when I'm done inking it, I'll just post on my social media to see if anyone on my friends list or comic book friends will know who it is. So I had it. I inked it. Once I'm done inking, I posted on social media, and within an hour or so, someone responded and they said, "That's Greg Polson's work." and then tagged Greg, and then Greg looked at it, responded, "Yeah, that's my work. Nice inks, by the way." And that's how we discovered who this person, artist penciler is. Anthony contacted me, asking me to ink it, and then asking me if I knew who he was. I posted on social media, and then right after I posted, within a few, maybe a couple of hours or something, he the guy himself, Greg, contacted me on social media and said he worked on it. So I told Anthony, oh, the guy's name is Greg, and here's his social media. Feel free to get in touch with him. And ever since then, he commissioned Greg to draw some stuff, and also asked me to ink it. So that was pretty nice. That's a nice story over there. Yeah. So this isn't my pencils. This is someone else's pencils, but I'm commissioned to someone contact me to ink this piece for them. Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions. Let's create row. Did you know you can use watercolor brush pen for inking? That is what this is. This is a watercolor brush pen that I'm using for inking. That is exactly what this is. You can actually use any brush for inking. I mean, if you want it, you can actually, if you have long hair, you can cut like a strand of hair, bundle it up into a stick, and then start using that to ink. If you wanted to use like a watercolor brush pen, you can use that. You can use Chinese calligraphy brushes to ink. You can use, as long as it's a brush and it yields like a sharp tip, then you can use that brush for inking. Let me see. Let's create row. Didn't know you can use watercolor brush pen for inking. I will try inking using watercolor brush pen from now on. Good. Chemist with a keynote H. Okay, chemist. Okay, actually, my brother's a chemist, but he's not an artist. I'm probably gonna remember you from here on out, chemist. Okay, you're like a combination of his profession and my profession. Okay, anyways, let's see. Let's Create wrote, found out that you'll be at Powerhouse Comic Con this year. Too bad that I can't be there this year. Otherwise, I'll drop by the booth and say hi. Yeah, Powerhouse Comic Con contacted me and asked me if I would like to attend their convention. And I said, yes. Powerhouse, they're good friends. And I like going to the conventions. It's a convention that's local to me. They're located in Alameda County Fair. It's actually a good, maybe a few hours drive from me, so it's not too far. I don't have to fly on an airplane, so that's not bad. I'm also going to be appearing in another convention, SACCon. That one's in Sacramento. Let me angle this so everyone can see better. That was going to be in Sacramento. I don't remember what date, but if you look at my website and look under events, that will list the date and time that I will be there, and also the location of where that convention is. So I have 3 conventions lined up right now. So it's a SACCon, which is coming up, and then I have Powerhouse Comic Con, and then I also have Sundial Bridge Comic Con. Sundial Bridge Comic Con is in Reading, so that's not too far from me. Also, I like doing all these local conventions. Let's create SACCon. Yeah, maybe I can go there as an attendee and look for you. What is SACCon? Yeah, SACCon is a Saturday and Sunday. I don't know exactly what date, but again, if you go to my website, Walden Wong, here's my website. Where's my website? If you go to my website and look at their events, you'll see that there. So here's my website, waldenwongart.com, the one on the top. Check it out, and you'll see, look at their events, and you'll see what day it is. I actually update my website fairly frequently. Sometimes if I'm going to a convention, I just put that up there on my website on the events. Not only to inform people who are looking at my website, but also for myself to keep track of when my conventions are. My website also has like books that I've worked on and things that are coming out and videos. And this podcast, after I'm done with this podcast, I'm also going to list it on my website. So my website is almost like a one-stop shopping thing. It lists all my social medias, all my videos, all my everything that you ever wanted to know about me in working in comics. Like, you can find out on my website. Okay, I think I answered all more questions. Again, feel free to ask more questions. So now, the main event, I'm going to talk about how I started working in Image Comics. Okay, so before Image Comics, I was doing independent comic books. Okay, one of the books I was working on was More Than Mortal for a publisher called Liar Comics. Liar Comics. Okay, Liar Comics, they were doing this book, and the penciler was Steve Furco. Steve Furco, his name is Steve, Steve, Furco, Firchow. It reads like Fur Chow, but his name is Steve Furco. He was a penciler, and at the time, I didn't know his background that much. I just knew he was penciling the book. I was inking the book, and he was coloring it. But I found out later while I was working with him, I met up with him at like a few. Man, I got that. Here's a whole nother story. Working on Liar Comics, More Than Mortal. I think if you search up More Than Mortal online, type in Steve Furco's name and my name, you'll see some of the artwork there. We literally were like rock stars. Everybody in the comic book industry knew our work, and we were working on an independent book. It was if, More Than Mortal was later up on picked up by Image, but I didn't work on some of the other issues. I only worked on the first series. But Steve Furco, he was a colorist for Top Cow Comics, Image Comics. Not only was he the colorist, he would be the colorist who would color everything that Mark Silvestri penciled. Okay, Mark Silvestri pencil, Dave Finch. Dave Finch, knows who Furco is because Top Cow Studios, they were actually a studio in Los Angeles, and I was inking Steve's work, and Steve was penciling because he was doing a lot of professional coloring, but he wasn't doing penciling stuff for the big publishers or Marvel or DC or Top Cow. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they think that he wasn't ready, but I thought he was ready. He's a great artist. So he ventured out and started working with Liar Comics, developed these characters, and started penciling these characters. And they contacted me and had me ink them. I found them out because I went to a convention, and then there was these people in the booth for Liar Comics, and I just showed them my portfolio, and they hired me. After they hired me, I started working with Steve Furco. I started inking him, and maybe I think like 2 issues into it, I think we worked on 4 issues. 2 issues into it, Steve said, "Hey Walden, I really like your inks. Have you ever worked for Top Cow Image Comics?" Hey, Romney Tickline, how's it going? Good to see you here. Let me answer some questions. Little JP, Joe Dan wrote, you ever use grease pencil on your inking, Walden? And have you ever used Zebra G pens? It's just got a pack today, and I'm going to use for the first time. Okay, let me answer that question. I'll come back to the Top Cow. I don't use grease pencil. Sometimes I'll use that, create that effect with, look, check this out. I'll use a piece of Crayola crayon, this black. I have this black Crayola crayon right next to my drawing table, and instead of using grease pencil, I'll ink everything, and I'll use this to create this texture on some of the inking area. So grease pencil, you use a grease pencil, but I just use a regular crayon. And then some of the G pens, they're kind of like these Japanese Z pens, zebra pit pens, and all that. I haven't used some of those, but I imagine like they're all the same. I think all brushes and nibs are all the same. It comes in different sizes. I've used like a lot of different nibs and a lot of different brushes, but as long as like I can't stress this enough to everyone who's listening to my channel or everyone who's watching or whatever. If you know how to control a brush, if you know how to control a quill, it doesn't matter what brush you're using or what quill you're using. That is why I got this. Okay, the reason I got this is because it didn't cost that much for a brush, and if I threw it away, my heart won't hurt that much compared to throwing away a $25 Winsor Newton brush. Because this brush is just this thing is just $5. It's really disposable. And after using these brush for a while, I discovered that they last longer than an expensive brush. Okay, so if you have a quill that you can get a sharp tip, it doesn't matter if you have a thick quill or a small quill, gelato or a hunt or zebra or whatever. As long as you can control it, that's what's all important. That's what's the most important. Sometimes it's great to try out different tools, and I also like trying out different tools. But I always find myself going back to these same tools because it just works. But I do want to try. I haven't tried the zebra G pen. I think it's like a brush, right? I think it has like ink in there. I heard about that. I just never actually but try that out. I think that's good for like if you're traveling. It has like it looks like a nice cross pin that you can put a cap on, and then you can just start inking with it. But for traveling, I think those will be great, like brushes that has ink that's pre-filled. Now, if you buy those brushes, I'm going to give you guys another tip. Now, if you have those brushes that has pre-filled ink in it, like some of these other pens that has ink in it, once you run out of ink, don't throw it away. Okay, you don't even need to refill it. Just use it like a regular dip pen and dip it and kind of like use it over and over again. So even if you have these pre-filled pens that run out of ink, you can still continue using it if you're dipping it like this. Let's see some of the other questions. Good to be seen. Yeah, Ramakan. Ramakan, yeah, you're like it's really good to see you. Yeah, because you're like one of my like followers ever since for as long as I remember. I remember one time I was supposed to go to a convention and we were supposed to meet there or something in Canada or something, but we missed each other. So I still every time I see your name, I still think the time that we missed each other at a convention because I don't know, like I couldn't make it or you couldn't make it or whatever. But I know you're in Canada, so I remember that. So one of these days, I do hope to meet you, Ramatiklin. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I know exactly who you are. Your avatar used to be like a hockey player. Now it's like a blue thing. I don't know what the blue thing is. Maybe a hockey logo or something. But it's really good to see you. Yeah, yeah, it's good to see you. It's good. Actually, I try to remember as many of my people who views my video and followers and people who watch my videos. I try to acknowledge them by name and try to remember as many people as I can. Sometimes I go to comic book conventions and I'll see people that I've seen before and I remember them because I may not remember faces, but I'm sorry. I may not remember the names, but I remember the faces. People who bought artwork from me before, or people who came up to me and asked me to sign stuff before. I remember them, and I remember a lot of times it surprises people. Like I remember one time I was in I think it was Calgary, Canada. I was at a convention. No. I'm taking it back. This was actually at Heroes Con. Yeah, I sold a Wonder Woman piece to a collector, and then that was the end of it. And then I went back to the convention like a year later, and that collector was standing there, and I said, "Hey, how's the Wonder Woman doing?" And then the collector said, his whole face lit up. And he goes, "Wow, you remember I bought the Wonder Woman?" Yeah, of course I remember, because yeah, I try to remember as many people as I can when I'm at conventions. Let's see. Let me answer some of the. Oh, before okay. Let me answer some questions. I have a watercolor brush. Let's see. It's good to be seen. Let's create. I have a watercolor brush pen laying around, brand new and never used. Don't want to waste it and use it for inking. If you have a brush, use it. Don't worry about wasting it. Otherwise, you're actually wasting it if you're not using it. If you have stuff, just use it. If you're not using it, that's when it's wasted. The pen is expensive. Michael's like $7. $7 is not that bad compared to like some of the brush these days, which is like $25. So just use it. If you don't use it, I consider it like if you buy stuff and you don't use it, that's a waste. If you're buying stuff and you use it and it falls apart, that's being used and that's still good. See, Rumble Kalani. It's amazing how you work that Pentel water brush. Well, then you could probably make it sing too. That's a good one. I don't know if I can make it sing. I think I should throw you guys off by taking this apart and inking this artwork without the top part and just holding this. So I'm gonna dip this in here and just continue inking it just like that. Just to throw all of you viewers off a little bit. Okay, let me see if I can answer some other questions. Les Cray wrote, Luis Rivera told me that he used this watercolor brush pen for inking also. Last time I talked to him about power. Yeah, Luis Rivera, he actually learned, he's one of my patrons on my Patreon page. That's how he learned about these brushes. He watched my videos, and I told him about these brushes, and he started buying them and he started using them. So that goes to me going back to what I was talking about. I'm one of the first artists that started using this, and then when people started watching me use these this brush pin over here, this brush pin, this guy over here, everyone started using it because it really is cheaper. It doesn't really cost that much to buy, and if it falls apart, you just use another one. You don't have to worry about like, oh, it's an expensive brush. I'm saving it. Yeah, so Lewis, not only does he use like this water brush pen, I also he goes to my he's one of my patrons. He'll every so often he'll contact me and show me some of his work, and I'll give him like a quick critique, and then I'll tell him what stuff I use, and then he's one of my like a long time follower over on my Patreon page, Luis Rivera. And for those of you who don't know who Luis, I think he's an amazing artist. He can draw and ink so many pages in a day. Like Marvel and DC Comics should be hiring him. Like he really is an amazing artist. When I first talked to him, when he was started joining my Patreon, I spoke to him a bit. He was penciling a lot of independent work. Now he's trying his hand at inking, so he's inking other people's work. So that's good, and he's really a machine. I talked to him at a few conventions. He's a really nice guy, really gentle, nice guy. See, let me see if there's any other questions. Did you mention using that brush to go over color pencil work and squeezing the water out of that brush? Yes, Leggy Share. Yeah, so this watercolor brush pen, you're supposed to fill it with water. And then after you fill the water, you cap it in there. And then when you squeeze it, let me show you guys. When you squeeze it, it's really pliable. You squeeze it, you see that? Very flexible. When you squeeze it, water goes through this brush. It controls how much water is coming out, and it comes out to here. So if you're coloring with watercolor brush pencil, I'm sorry, when you're coloring with watercolor pencil, all you do is just color like color pencil. After you're done coloring, make sure you're coloring on watercolor paper. You just use this brush and then kind of like smudge it, and that's how you make your watercolor pencil look like a watercolor painting. This can also be used for brush calligraphy as well. I think when I first discovered it at Japantown, where I bought this from, they placed this right next to a display area where there was a pad, and this was chained to like on the counter, and there was water in there, and you would use water to like write on this sample paper just for practice on writing calligraphy. So in Japantown, a lot of people were buying Japanese brushes for calligraphy at the time. It's just that I walked in there. Well, some of you who've been to San Francisco, Japantown, that calligraphy store is right across from Kino Kuniya bookstore. So I would go to Kino Kuniya bookstore a lot to buy some mangas, Japanese book. Even though I didn't know how to read it, I would just buy it to look at artwork. And then once I would be done, I would just go across to the stationery store. Stationery store is still there. It's Do Re Mi or whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called. It's in Japanese, but it's still there, and you can still see them selling these brush pens. They're not $5 anymore. They're probably more expensive, and they're probably selling the English version packaging. So again, like when I bought them, they were kind of new. America didn't make them yet. They were in these Japanese packaging, but I'm sure now they have the American version packaging. So if you're in San Francisco, that's one place to visit. Kino Kuniya bookstore in Japantown, also the stationery store. There's a lot of different type of art supplies that you can get there. Gotta move this around, see if there's any other questions. Oh, thank you, Jodette, for the video yellow game video controller. That's kind of nice to see. It's kind of cool. Thank you so much. Ramakan wrote, yeah, you were supposed to come to Victoria, BC, Canada just before. That's right. That's right, Romiticlin. Yeah, I was supposed to go to a convention in Victoria, BC. I forget what the name of the convention was. They even had me create a program cover. I penciled and inked a program cover for that convention. It was like a robot. I still have the artwork. One of these days, I should like post it and scan it or something. I did the artwork for the program cover, which was supposed to be a robot battling Godzilla and there were airplanes flying. And then that was supposed to be the program cover for the convention, and I was supposed to attend right before the pandemic happened. And then we just didn't have any more conventions anymore. That convention didn't contact me back for future shows. But you're right, that was the convention. That reminded me of the artwork that I did that was never printed into the program book. Okay, let me see if there's good to jog memories. Okay, let's see. And thanks again, Joe. That's pretty awesome to see. Like it's I see Dave Finch. Like sometimes Dave Finch would be doing these videos and he would get all these little colorful messages with the numbers on them. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. But as a creator who's making a video like right now, and then I see that it feels kind of nice, and it makes me want to make more of these videos. It's just like, oh, people are actually liking my videos. I see that you have like a pound sign in the 5 pounds, I guess. So maybe you're in England or something. Let's see. Let's create role. Yeah, he's a hardworking comic book artist, working full-time job and doing comics. Amazing. Yeah, Joe Luis Rivera, he works in the restaurant full time and has a big family, and he does comics at nighttime. Let me ink these guys in. Okay, so I'm tapering these lines. I'll just go in here and press them in like this. And then make sure they're consistent. Okay, let me see if there's any other questions. Thanks again, little JP. Good. Do you sell these mini art pieces on trading cards at your table at SatCon? This is a commission piece. I'm actually thinking about doing some little trading cards. Like this is one of the artwork that I've done. This is actually a chromium trading card that I'm talking to a company. I was gonna make a bunch of these and sell these at a convention, little trading cards, but then the pandemic happened. And I just never continued doing it. This is a sample that one of the companies that were making these prints. I would just send them artwork and they would send these to me. Maybe I should contact them back and start doing it now that conventions are happening again. See, I'm in England. Okay, cool, Joe. It's nice to have an England friend. I live in the countryside. I believe the sire from Lord of the Rings is based on my area. Yeah, those are the trading cards. Yeah, Joe, I hope to go to a convention in England someday. If I do, I hope to meet you there. Or, Joe, if you ever visit San Francisco, feel free to let me know. I'll show you around. I know it's weird. I actually have some friends that are overseas or patrons or people that are coming to San Francisco, and I'll meet up with them and then I'll just show them around San Francisco. I know, right? Yeah. Can you imagine? Like you're someone who's watching like a YouTube video about this guy. He's talking about this, and all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, you're coming to San Francisco," and then I'll say, "Hey, since you're coming to San Francisco, you want to hang out?" Like that. So that does happen ever so often. I hung out with some people before. I think I even made videos of it too. Let me see if there's any other question. What type of brush pin is that called? I like to buy some. This brush pin here is the Pentel Aquash, AQU. Let me write this down. Pentel, Pentel. Actually, you know what? If you go to my website, waldenwongart.com, let me show you my website. Here's my website, waldenwongart.com. Over there's a big yellow button that says Walden on Amazon. Harvey, dude, Harvey, dude, I'm so hyped. Harvey is in the house. I gotta tell you guys about Harvey. Actually, let me get back to talking about. Okay, you go to my website, go to Amazon.com, and actually go to my website and go to. There's a big orange yellow button that says Walden on Amazon. If you click that link, there's a box that says artwork, and box with my graphic novels, and then another box that shows all the art supplies I use. You can just scroll through it, and then you click on to the one that looks like this, that leads you directly to ordering this. And all those links on my site is my Amazon affiliate link, so you can order any of them, and anything you order, I get a little bit of a commission. Harvey. Okay. Okay. Let me. What type of brush pin is that called? Oh yeah, it's a Pentel brush pin. Pentel Aquash brush pin. Let's create this in San Francisco. Cool. Maybe one day we'll see each other. Harvey. Harvey. I gotta talk about Harvey. Okay. I'm so excited right now. I thought. Okay. Okay. I am so excited. Harvey is here. Okay, let's create like 50 miles from San Francisco. That's pretty far away from San Francisco. Joe Dentwell, Joe Dentwell, I will definitely come visit you when I hit San Francisco one day. Well, then you can show me the spots, Haight Ashbury and all those crazy hilly roads. Joe, if you come to San Francisco, I'll show you more than just Haight and Ashbury. I'll show you Golden Gate Bridge. I'll show you Coy Tower. I'll show you the most crookedest street in the world, Chinatown. I'll show you Little Italy, all that. Okay, Walden is the best host. Yeah, Harvey was one of the Harvey is a good friend. So there's a whole story about Harvey. Okay, so I met Harvey because Harvey. I gotta talk about Harvey. Harvey's like in a chat right now. He used to run a show called actually he used to have a website called Harvey's Weekly Grip. Okay, and that website talks about some of the okay. Actually, this one's done. Okay, I'm gonna work on another commission piece. This one is penciled by Joe Madureira. Okay, I was gonna end this podcast here because once this was done, but then since Harvey's here, I gotta talk about Harvey. And Harvey has such an amazing history. Okay, so I met Harvey. Actually, I didn't meet Harvey. I know of Harvey when he had a website, Harvey's Weekly Grip. And I remember specifically his website had his fist, like the fist that was like this. It was like Harvey's Weekly Grip. And he would actually go to comic stores and buy his comics and do kind of like a review. This was before YouTube was popular. This is before I knew how to make a website, or a lot of people knew how to make a website. Harvey's Weekly Grip was my comic news. Like, let me angle this a little bit better. Like, I would learn what new comics are coming out, and Harvey wasn't local to San Francisco. He lived in like Los Angeles, and when every now and then when I was looking at his website, I don't know if he still has Weekly Grip on it right now. Wish he did, but he would have some of the artwork that I worked on. Okay, like some of the comic books. So I didn't know Harvey at the time, and Harvey didn't know me, but he knew a lot of people from Extreme Studios. Extreme Studios is run by Rob Liefeld at the time, and he knew a lot of guys there. He knew Norm Ratmoon, he knew Marlo Uquiza, Jeff Matsuda, Danny McKee. They're like first name friends. Harvey also did some assistant inking work for some of the Extreme Studio guys. So to me, I was like working in San Francisco. I was just doing my own thing. And then all of a sudden, there's this guy who knows all these people in Extreme Studios, and he's talking about all these comic books that he's buying from these artists. And it was just so amazing to me. Like, so amazing. And then all of a sudden, he would post some comic books that Mark Pajarillo worked on. And at the time, I was inking Mark Pajarillo on JLA. JLA also did some stuff with him on Top Cow and things like that. But say I was working on JLA, and then Harvey was posting JLA stuff. And then I saw that, and then my name was there because Harvey put in my name. And I decided, I'm gonna contact Harvey and say thank you for plugging my name and stuff, because that was very nice of him. Because as a comic book artist, I was new at the time. I was still a new comic book artist. My first DC work was working with Mark Pajarillo on JLA, and all of a sudden I saw my name in lights on the website. I was like, I've never seen that before. It's my first time. This is probably, Harvey, if you're here, you're hearing this story. You're probably hearing this for the first time as well, because I saw my name in lights. That's how I saw my name in lights. So I got in touch with Harvey, and then we spoke to each other. And then one day Harvey said, "Hey Walden, do you want to do a signing at, I think it's called Crazy Cats?" Let me see if Harvey wrote anything. Let me see some of the comments. like the PLC. I'm gonna go back. It means you sound like a good host. Thank you, Joe. Let me go back and answer some questions. San Francisco would love to try garlic noodles. Ron McKay, if you come to San Francisco, I'll show you more than garlic noodles. Okay, Walden is the best host. Let's create. I used to go to Mission Comics and Arch, and I'm going to move around so you see some of my inks over. Probably I'll catch up on some of the questions. I used to go to Mission Comics and Art, and I used to go to Mission Comics and Art Comic Show in San Francisco. Like the owner, he's super cool. I never been to Mission Comics. I was thinking of going there sometime. I don't know if it's a comic book store with comics. Joe Dent, amazing. You sound like a good host, Walden. Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I try to show anytime that anyone comes to San Francisco, I try to show them as much as I can because they don't live here. I want them to see as much as I can. Been to Chinatown so many times. Yeah, I used to go to Chinatown a lot, but not so much as I got older. Too many people. I'm about 2 hours from Ashley Bucks. Sounds like a nice place. Oh, I don't know where Ashley Bucks is. Like the piers in San Francisco, Science Exploratorium. Yeah, there's San Francisco, there's Pier 39, all that. Roman Joe, they're very cool. I'd like to visit England sometime. Roman wrote, Canada sounds cool too. I really want to try those hot dogs on sticks. We can't get them in English. I don't know about hot dogs on a stick. Those are like corn dogs. Too much of those in San Francisco. In Canada, they have something called poutine. First time I ever tried that was when I went to Calgary. Didn't know you were for Image Comics. Yeah, I work for Image Comics. I actually work for Image Comics, Marvel Comics, DC Comics, like Disney, a lot of different publishers. Joe Dent, corn dogs. This is how the pencils look. Corn dogs, yeah, they're apparently good, but you would want to eat it as a steady diet. I don't know if you want to eat that as a steady diet. That's pretty bad. I used to eat that as a kid a lot when I was a little kid because it was just easy to heat up. You should visit England. I'm sure you have a fun time. I would like to visit England. Saw your photo on Facebook, and did you have a table? Okay, Joe. I'm probably you're. Yeah, it's feel free to talk amongst each other. I'm gonna see if there's any questions that I can answer, and I'm gonna scroll around so you see some of my other inks. Let's see. Thanks. If I ever have no, I'll find time. The corn dogs are too good once a month kind of deal. Corn dogs depends. You have a small corn dog or a bigger corn dog. See, all accurate so far, brother. Harvey, yeah, I gotta continue with the Harvey story. I gotta get through. Mission Comics, art book store, professional comic book store. Is this the original character? Okay, so these characters over here, they're original characters for the person who commissioned me. Okay, the person who commissioned me hired me to do like a whole bunch of these commissions. I'm getting to it. These are his original characters. I did my own poutine here. I made me feel pretty sick. I made my own poutine here. Okay, that's funny. It looks like a cheese and gravy and French fries. Poutine is very good, but also very bad for your health. French fries covered in gravy and smothered. The first time I have ever had any poutine was someone took me to a McDonald's in Canada, and we had a poutine there. Excellent podcast. Thank you for all you do here and share. All this will help level up anything I do. Oh, you're welcome, Iggy. Yeah, I'll be doing more. Yeah, see, when I do these live videos and I talk to all of you, it gets me so pumped to make more videos. Like sometimes I'll make videos and I'm like, do people watch them? Like, do people learn from them? But when I hear people saying that they're learning from it, it makes me want to do much more. Like I'm pumped to do more right now. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so back to Harvey. So Harvey contacted me and said, "Would you like to do a signing in Crazy Cat Comics?" And I said, "Sure." And that was the first time I had this like first time I had a place fly me down to Los Angeles, and like first time I ever flew to travel to do a signing at a comic book store. I flew there, and then I still remember everyone was there. It was my first signing ever in Crazy Cats Comics in Los Angeles. So there, it was Mark Parrio. He was penciling JOA at the time. He also did a lot of stuff for Extreme Studios. Jeff Matsuda. He was the artist on Next Men. Was it Next Men? I think it was Next Men. And a bunch of Extreme Studios. Also, there was John Sabal, who was inker for Jeff Matsuda. For those of you who don't know who Jeff Matsuda is the artist that did comics, but then later on he moved on to animation and started working on Jackie Chan adventures, Batman adventures, a lot of animated stuff. So Jonathan Ball was there, and Norm Moon was there. A lot of you guys who go on social media, especially on Facebook, will probably know who Norm Moon is. I still talk to Norm every so often. Sometimes I'll go to conventions and then I'll see him, and then we'll meet up with each other, and then we'll do like inking commissions on a hotel. So Norm was there, and also Danny Mickey was there, and all of a sudden you see this guy Walden Wong. Like, who's Walden Wong? Everyone there was an established professional, and then all of a sudden it's this guy Walden Wong. I remember seeing. I remember seeing. Norm Moon told me this too. Like every so often at San Diego Comic Con, I would go by and I would say, "Oh yeah, Marlo Aquiza was also there." Marlo, he was inking Stephen Platt at the time on what was the book called? Well, Prophet, on a Prophet. Okay, can't remember. I remember all this. So he was inking Prophet. And I remember meeting Mark Parillo because before going to the signing, I would see him at convention. I would say hi, and he would say hi back. And then he probably thought I was just like some kind of fanboy, and I would just say hi. All of a sudden, the same fanboy shows up at a signing, and he was like, "What is this guy doing here? You're wait, what? You're a comic book artist? All this time, I thought you were like a fanboy that just says hi." And I said, "No, I'm actually inking Mark Parillo on GLA, so I'm not a fanboy. I guess I still am a fanboy. Even today, I still see myself as a fanboy. So that's like a lot of good memories there. And that was the first time I still remember I got this comic book board, like a comic backing board, and I asked everyone to sign it. So everyone that was at the signing signed that board, and I still have that board like I still have that board in a comic bag, and I still remember it. So it's a good memory, Harvey. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and Harvey is a good host himself. Harvey works at Disneyland. The few times I've been to Disneyland, he would show me around the whole Disneyland. Not only did he show me Disneyland, he would show me like easy access to hard to get places. He knew where to go, like where to go to avoid the crowd. So that was very nice. So Harvey, if you ever visit San Francisco again, please don't hesitate to contact me. I hope you and your girlfriend are still together and are doing well. I don't know if you guys are still together. I still have that T-shirt that you got for me, that burgundy T-shirt that you guys surprised me with. Thank you so much for that. That was a nice surprise. I know this was like many years ago, but to me, it still feels like yesterday. Working in comics, everything feels like it was still yesterday. See, let me catch up with some of the chat. See, Canada's a big place for lots to see. Yeah, Canada's. I remember when I went to Canada in Calgary, it was super cold. You know, something says in Canada, a lot of the best artists and inkers came out of Image. Hey, Comic Book Bob, glad to see you here. A lot of came out of Image. I'm an old school comic fan. I remember the Image talent search. You're the first one I'm calling for sure, Harvey. Man, my wife would love to see you again. Like, I hope you guys are doing well. You're still together, and she has our pic. Oh, I'm so happy that you guys are together. When I mentioned like your girlfriend, I said, "Oh, should I even say that? Please tell her I said hello." Yeah, and tell her that I missed you guys. Let me see. Comic book. I love the '90s comics as well. So when Image is on her fridge, are you serious? The picture of us is still on the fridge. That is so awesome. That is so awesome. Please send my love to her. Yeah. So when Image Comics first started, I wanted to be a comic book artist when Image Comics first started. That's how it happened for me. Like I would read comic books, but I didn't think about wanting to be a comic book star. And I think this will interest some of you too. At the time, there used to be a magazine called the Wizard magazine, and in Wizard magazine, I would read all these interviews. And one of the interviews, and this was before I met him, Marlo Aquiza. He's one of the guys that that I met later. But I remember reading about what he wrote. I think he wrote something in Image where it was a premiere of this movie Blade, and in the article, he wrote, "Yeah, I can't." Blade was amazing. I remember going to the restroom and Wesley Snipes was right next to me in a urinal peeing. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, look at these comic book artists. They're like rock stars. They're inside watching a movie and they see each other like, like it's like no big deal. And that's when I thought, man, I want to be a comic book artist. See, not to be a rock star, but I mean, I like art, obviously, but like maybe I can make a career in art. And it was later on I met Marlo at another signing in San Francisco. Marlo Aquiza was in a signing in San Francisco. I don't remember the name of the comic book store. It was a store that was near I think kind of like near AT&T Park, where AT&T Park is now. They had Extreme Studios had a signing because they had an Extreme Studio tour, and if a retailer bought so many issues of a certain comic book, then they would fly the whole Extreme team there. And that was the first time I met Marlo Oquiza, Rob Liefeld, Stephen Platt, John Sabal. Not only were they there, I remember seeing. I hope I'm not getting all this messed up. I remember seeing J. Scott Campbell there, Brett Booth, Alex Gardner. They were all, maybe that was the Extreme Studio tour. Maybe that's another story. Yeah, but I remember meeting all these guys before they were like super big. J. Scott Campbell wasn't like super popular at the time. He was just working on Gen 13. Well, I met all these guys, and then later on, I decided to show Marlo Quiza my portfolio and ask him, "Can you give me a critique?" And he was very nice. He gave me his business card and said, well, "If you ever need anything, feel free to give me a call and go from there." And then I think he was just being nice to give his business card. His business card was like from Extreme Studios, and it had like Shaft from that character from Youngblood on it. And I thought, wow, this is also awesome. It's like working comics. You get the business card with these comic book characters on it. And now I know where Extreme Studio is. Now I know where Extreme Studio is. There's his phone number and there's the address, and so cool. So I kept calling him. Marlo being a nice guy, he never got tired of me. I just called him and then talked. I remember I called Extreme Studios one time, and then the receptionist answered the phone. "Hi, may I help you? Extreme Studios." I go, "Yeah, may I speak to Marlo Ukiza?" "Okay, please hold." And this wasn't where I guess they didn't put mute on hold. They just said, "Oh, hold on a second. Hey, Marlo, there's a phone call for you." And I remember hearing in the background Marlo walking to the phone. "A phone call for me? Who's calling me here? No one calls me here." and then it was, "Hello, Marlo, it's Walden. I met you at the convention." "Oh yeah, how's it going?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I did some more samples. I was wondering if I could send it to you." And he goes, "Yeah, just send it to me here at Extreme Studios. Do you have my address?" I said, "Yeah, it's on your business card." So that's when I started sending samples to Marlo back and forth. And he was very, very kind. And he's the one who told me to master the quill, to master using the crow quill. Crow quill is this thing over here. The nib holder, and this whole thing together is called the crow quill. So the crow quill, he asked me to master the crow quill, and I kept practicing and practicing. These quills, you can only ink one direction. If you ink more in another direction, it'll break. I would break so many of these. I would break them over and over because I couldn't control them. I was just pressing too hard on them. And then Marlo goes, you got to master the quill. If you want to work in comics, you got to master the quill. Those were his words. Master the quill. Okay, so I practiced and practiced, and then I got good at it, and then I got like I was able to control how to ink with it. And Marlo, being the nice guy he was, I would send him photocopies of my work, and after he gets it, he would look at it and critique me. Like he was, in a way, he was also like kind of being my mentor. So he would take like he will look at my work, pretend I did samples here, and he will look at it, and then he would like say, "Oh, this hand's wrong." No, this is before the internet days. Okay, I can mention. He would look at something, and he would stick a post-it note there, and then if you have a post-it note, you kind of see through it, and then Marlo would ink how he would ink the piece. He would ink it like whatever, and then make notations like do this, and then he would fold my photocopy back up, leave that post-it note there, fold it up, and then send it back to me. So when I got it, I opened up the envelope, I would see his inks on the post-it note over my inks, so I can see what I've done compared to what he's done. That was how nice Marlo was. He was spending time to do the inky samples for me. So we were doing that back and forth, and then I was also like sending Marlo some goodie stuff at the time, because he was like so. I remember I had like a Wolverine original art by Arthur Adams because I used to go to his comic book store and Arthur would just draw stuff, and I had a Wolverine Logan drawing, an original drawing over a backing board. So because Marlo was so nice, I sent him that original art that Arthur Adams drew. I hope he still has it. Like, you know, I didn't value I didn't value Arthur Adams' artwork as much as I do now because back then I would be buying comics from Arthur, like, you know, because he used to work in a comic book store, and I didn't see him as a comic book artist. I just saw him as the guy who sold comics to me. But I hope he still has that comic book. I mean that backing board with Wolverine art right now. I remember when I went to Los Angeles and I stayed over at his house. Actually, I think this was during the Crazy Cat. Like I was there and I stayed an extra day, and Marlo was nice enough to let me stay over at his house. I remember seeing that the Wolverine drawing there, and Marlo is someone who has like a lot of these Godzilla toys. So those of you who don't know Marlo Aquiza, he worked at Extreme Studios. He also did a lot of stuff with DC Comics. He's not doing comics as frequently as much these days. He's doing. I mean, he moved over to the Philippines and he's a nurse now. But maybe ever so often, if a situation comes up, he would still do comics. I remember I introduced him to do some other comics because I was busy. Like I was busy working in comics, and he was kind of like not as busy. And then he would ask me to help him out in getting comic book gigs, and then I would like pass on comic book work over to him, because he's a really good person to me, and he helped me along the way. I still feel like I owe him a lot, but he's actually like. I'm just like he's actually like a couple of days older than me. Like we're born in the same month. He's like a week older than me or something. We're the same age. Let me see if there's any other question. Let me catch up on the chat. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna move this around. Love these pencils by Joe. These pencil aren't by Joe Madera. It's by uh, Mike Bolden, who draws like Joe Madera. Mike Bolden and I, we worked on World of Warcraft together a while back. They have a hardcover on that World of Warcraft that Joe uh, uh, Mike Bolden worked on. Let's see. I'll definitely tell girls and Marie hello right after this. Actually, yeah, right before when I was making this podcast, I told my wife, I said, "I'm gonna go make a podcast," and then she goes, "You're making a podcast." She started cracking up and it said, "Who's gonna listen to you? Who wants to like hear you talk?" And I don't know, like someone said they wanted me to make more podcasts, and then I said, okay, I think I'll make more podcasts. And then right before I went to the podcast, and I said to my wife, okay, time for me to go. I'm going to start talking to myself again. But like, I'm so happy to see all of you here. Okay, I love the comics as well. 90s. We're still together. I'm glad, so happy to hear you together. I hope you visit soon. It's pretty great in the summer on the fridge. Oh, I'm gonna scroll back forward. Joe, then I try once and quit. I got a G pin here and try first time. I still prefer regular brush. I Okay, I'll go very well. Careful nibs. Joe, then look at. I prefer digital. Okay, Kairos. I prefer digital inking. I prefer digital over inking. But if I am ink physically now, I will use tech pens and thinking things up later. I just think it fits me more. G pens and brush pens kind of give it too much of a cartoony look. Yeah, some people like digital work, and I also like digital because it just creates the work faster, and then you can like fill in backs quicker. You can do backgrounds faster. It's just so much easier. But I still like doing traditional because at the end of the day, I still have the original artwork. Digital, you don't really have a physical piece of artwork. So those of you who are thinking of working in comics, I know a lot of people are working digital these days, and there's nothing wrong with that. I support digital work as well, but for myself, I prefer working traditionally because at the end of the day, I have a actual physical piece of work. That physical piece of work. when you're working in comics, you get paid from the publishers to draw something, and then you send them the scan, and after that, the actual artwork that you have is yours. Okay, the owner doesn't, the company doesn't own it. You own it. You can in turn take that artwork and start selling it for more income. Okay, you can give it to friends. You can donate it to have it auctioned off or whatever, but you have a physical piece of artwork. If you're working digitally, you don't have that. So whatever you get paid by the company, and that's it. You don't sell artwork. Sometimes people want to collect artwork and they want your work. They don't have anything. I have friends, for example, uh, my friend Eric Nguyen, he worked on his new comic that just came out last week, White Savior. He also worked on like a lot of other books for Dark Horse, but his newest book that's in the newsstand right now is called White Savior. I think he also worked on Strange Girls for DC Comics. No, Dark Horse Comics. Anyway, we had a discussion once. He and I, we were both like started working in comics together. We met each other at a comic book convention by standing in line in Portfolio, but we still keep in touch and talk to each other every so often. He spoke to me and said, "Walden, sometimes I miss work." He said he missed working traditionally because he's all digital now. And I go, "Why? What do you miss?" He go, "Because when he's at conventions, he doesn't have original artwork to sell." And he was asking me, "Is it okay if I print out my work and then sell the printouts?" And I go, "Well, if you print out your work, that's not really the original. That's just a printout." And he said, "What if I number them like one of one? So after I print it out, I would never print it again." And I go, "Well, that may be true, but what if later on you decide that you want to print it again?" So it's not like an actual original art, even though if you say you print it out once and then sell it as one, because like it's just a digital file. You know, it's not an actual physical piece of artwork. So I don't think he goes to conventions and actually sell any original artwork that's been published. He might do sketches and commissions, but he does miss that having the original art. So that's one thing that you miss if you do a digital artwork. See, let me catch up on the chat while you guys look here. Joey, you're from England. You probably have. Let me see. I love that you guys are chatting with each other. That makes me so happy to see. Okay, yeah, I have one, so I can continue talking. Jordan, Chainsaw. Yeah, Chainsaw Man is awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you guys ever watched Chainsaw Man, but Chainsaw Man is awesome. For Chainsaw Man, one of the little dogs is called Pochita. For Halloween, I actually carved the pumpkin of Pochita, and I made that little saw in front. See, yeah, I'm from Mario. Okay, good. I'm going to catch up on the chat later while I continue telling stories. Yeah, so I'm going to rewind it back a little bit and talk about Liar Comics, how we were like rock stars and how I started working these Top Cow Comics. So when I was working for Liar Comics, Inky Steve Furco, we were literally like rock stars. All these comic book artists knew who we were. I thought we was just working for an independent publisher, and no one knew who we were, but people knew us. I remember going to San Diego Comic Con, and before I knew Jeff Loeb, I saw who Jeff Loeb is. A lot of you guys know who Jeff Loeb. He's like the executive producer for a lot of Marvel movies and TV shows and stuff. Back then, he was writing comic books like Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, some of the Batman Long Halloween, and so forth. I remember meeting Jeff at a DC Comics booth, and I said, "Hi, Jeff, my name is Walden. Do you have time to look over my portfolio?" And then he said right away, "Wait, Walden Wong? Are you the inker who's inking Steve Furco on More Than Mortal for Liar Comics?" I said, "Yes." "Wow, I know your work." So that was exciting to see, especially someone from a DC booth that recognizes my work, and I wasn't working for DC Comics yet at the time. So that was exciting. And it's not really like for anyone. It was like Jeff Loeb, who's working on all these high profile books. So not only that, like a lot of artists, they would be coming to the booth, because I would be San Diego Comic Con. I would be in a Liar Comic booth, and it wasn't just like people buying the books. It was like other comic book professionals who were talking to us and looking at our work and stuff. And I was like, wow, look at all these like professional artists coming here. Is this how it feels like to be in like a comic book booth? But no, it was like because it was Steve Furco who had such a big name coloring comics for Top Cow, and then he was penciling this More Than Mortal comic book that people took attention. And I remember one time at San Diego Comic Con, after the convention was over, the publisher, Matt Scott, and Sharon Scott, those are the name of the publishers. They took us, Steve and I, to a hotel room, and in the hotel room, and I kid you not, guys, in the hotel room were hundreds, maybe thousands of comics all lined up. It wasn't even on the table, it was on the floor. It was all stacked up where it was stacked. Let me give you an example. It was stacked like this: one here, another one here, and then another one here, another one here. And they said, "Walden, Steve, can you sign all these books?" And I was looking at a hotel room in a sea of comics on the floor. It was literally that much comics. Like we were afraid that we might step on a comic and damage them. We spent like 4 hours on the floor signing every book. The books we were signing was going to a store, and then another one was a limited run, and so forth. We were just signing and signing the name, and at the time, I was just signing everything with my first name, only my first name. I didn't actually start signing my first and last name until I started working for DC, I think. But before, when I was working for independent publishers, I was only signing Walden because I thought Walden was enough. I didn't have to sign Wall, but like now I'll sign my name with both Walden and Wong. Walden and Wong. Anyway, so after working with Steve Urkel and we made a name for ourselves, Steve said, "Walden, did you ever try wanting to work for Top Cow Comics?" I said, "Yeah, I mean, I would love to try, but I don't know what to do." And Steve goes, "Why don't you give me a sample packet and I'll just bring it over to the office?" And bring it over to the office. He goes, "Yeah, I work at like Top Cow." And I go, "Really?" Like, again, like when I first started working with him, I didn't know he worked at Top Cow. I didn't know who he was. I just knew I wanted to eat comic books. And I was, as a guy who like started working in comics, you didn't really know who all these creators were. So I said, sure. So he brought my portfolio to Top Cow and showed it to Sonia M. Sonia M, she works in I think Sony video games or something right now, but she's not working in comics anymore. She got my portfolio, like photocopies of my pencils and inks, especially stuff from More Than Mortal. And Steve gave a good word and said I was a good inker. And so Sonia started calling me, and I started doing bits and pieces work for Top Cow. I remember working on 9-volt Darkness, Witchblade, and there's a whole bunch of, I can't remember all the names. It was like I was doing so many Top Cow books. But then again, it wasn't whole issues. It was like helping out a few pages here and there. And I remember working on 9-volt. One of the 9-volt was this character in Cyberforce that Mark Silvestri created. She's this girl that runs very fast, almost like the Flash. And in there, Sonia sent me a package. This is funny. Okay, she sent me the package, and then I think the penciler was Joe Benitez. I can't remember if it's Joe Benitez or Clarence Langsang or something, or one or other. Anyway, the drawing was of. Let me grab a scratch paper so I can demonstrate. The drawing was an airplane. I still remember this specifically. Here's an airplane like this, and then here's the buildings, like just like a basic building, and then here's the page. It was like a splash page, and then Sony goes, "Walden, hook up the buildings," and I'm like, "Hook up the buildings? What does that mean, hooking up the buildings?" Because the drawing was, I thought so. The drawing was like whoever drew it to sketch it, he didn't really draw all the windows and stuff like that. Okay, so at the time, I thought hook up the buildings. Does that mean like draw more buildings in between and hook them up? So that's what I did. So if you look at 9-volt, I don't remember the issue number. There's these two big buildings and then an airplane, and all of a sudden I drew all these tiny buildings inside because I was hooking them up. Because I didn't know hooking up means like draw more details, like hook it up. So I remember that's like a funny thing that I did with Top Cow. But when I sent it in, Sony didn't say that's not what I meant when I said hook up. So, but then I spent a lot of time like joining the two buildings together. Let's see. Okay, I'm almost done through this one. So after that, I started working with Top Cow and also inking JLA with Mark Perillo. And Mark Perillo, he was also an artist for Extreme Studios, but he also wanted to work for Top Cow because Top Cow and Extreme Studios, they're pretty close to each other. Like Extreme Studios was in Anaheim, Top Cow was in Santa Monica. No, I think Milestone was in Santa Monica. Anyway, they're all clustered in the same area. So Mark would go to this studio, that studio, and then not only was I working on JLA, and not only was I doing work for Witchblade, DC Comics later on asked Mark Parwin and I, Walden, we're going to be working on a JLA Witchblade crossover, a DC Comics, Image Comics Top Cow crossover. Would you like to work on it? I'm like, whoa, that's pretty awesome. Like I do want to work on that. And what it was it's the whole Justice League JLA that meets up with Sarah Panini, who's Witchblade, and then the Witchblade, that blade that metal thing that Witchblade has that crawls on her body, possessed and took over Wonder Woman. So Wonder Woman was wearing the Witchblade. So that was the story. So that was my foray into working with Image Comics and Top Cow. Not only did I do that stuff for Image, I also did a bunch of other stuff for Image Comics as well. I did some work for Wildstorm at the time. I also did some work for a book called The Bod. Some of you may not have heard of the book called The Bod. It was another independent book. That book was penciled by John Hebink. John Hebink lived in San Francisco, and I remember meeting up with him. He's also an artist that I met at a convention, and then one day, he and Larry Young was working on this image book called The Bod, which is actually a girl that who had a body or something, but she turns invisible, and then you can see this girl dressed in the body. I don't really know what the whole story about that was. But anyway, that was another book that I worked on for Image Comics. Like I think it's like 3 issues or something. So that was called The Mod. And what else did I work on for Image Comics? Wildstorm, Extreme Studios. Did I do anything for Extreme Studios? I don't think so. I don't think I did anything for Extreme Studios. Nope, not that was Extreme Studios. I did do stuff for Top Cow, though, a lot of stuff for Top Cow. So that was pretty exciting. I remember getting checks from Top Cow, and it had the Top Cow logo on it. It was the Top Cow logo was something. It was a regular check, and it was right here. It wasn't signed by Marcus Vestry though. It was signed by someone else. It had the Top Cow with the lightning bolts here, and then the udders of the cow, something like that. So that was my work in Top Cow Comics and Extreme. Well, not Extreme Studio, but Top Cow and Image Comics. Let me see if I can catch up with some of the questions before I end this podcast. See, I'm going to show you some of that work while I catch up. One Piece is simple, but backgrounds are crazy. One Piece is one of the longest running manga out there. One Piece. Okay. I think the newest volume is volume 102. It's coming out in April. Volume 102 for One Piece is coming out in April of 2023. I saw the volume already. It looks really good. Volume 102. Okay, well, I guess it's Chibi style. Chibi and David Romikid, I recommend. Very intense and is very good. Okay, cool. Still, yeah, so I met John Hebink a couple of times at cons. He's super friendly. Yeah, John Hebink. He is a nice guy. I worked with him like a few times on the bod. We also worked on a what is it a commercial together, a Gatorade Yao Ming commercial. We also worked together on that. We also did some. No, we also did. We did a bunch of work. He used to have a studio in San Francisco, called Studio or Channel 68 or something, where it was John Hebink, Rick Remender. Rick Remender was there, and also Karen Doyer, John Eastis. He's a painter. They had a studio in San Francisco. They even asked me if I wanted to join their studio one time, but I didn't join the studio. The joining studio, what happened was they wanted someone to share rent, to pay partial rent so they can stay afloat. So I didn't really have that, because especially since I was working in comics at home. Okay, so there's a little bit of smudging here. So usually what I'll do is I just take an eraser and I just erase that ink on top. I'll just keep erasing until it disappears. this takes a little bit of work, especially for a commission. I don't want to use white out a little bit, so I just keep erasing until all of that just erase. Sometimes if just a smudge, you can still erase it, so you see all that. So you see it's slowly coming off, but it's just gonna take a little bit more time, and then later on I just have to go back and re-ink it. Yeah, John Hebig, not only did he worked on that, and because we were both in San Francisco, he also taught at the Academy of Art University, which is the same place I also teach. I used to go to Academy of Art, and I taught a class called comic book illustration, and we would see each other there, and I would just teach college students how to draw, how to write stories, how to pencil sketch, how to ink it, and how to color, and how to letter it. Those were good times. I think I taught at the Academy of Art for a good amount of time. I'm gonna have to re-ink that area there, and then kind of fix that. So I'm gonna re-ink here and here. Okay, we'll go back and touch up the rest of the little details. Let me see if there's any questions. John had a studio in San Francisco, not anymore. I don't know if John still does comics anymore. Okay, let's see. Yeah. From the last I heard, I think John is working at Best Buy or something. I'm not really sure. Okay, eat this. Yeah, so that's my foray working into Top Cow and Image Comics. I remember meeting Mark Silvestri at a convention. He's a tall guy. He's like a really tall guy, like super tall. I remember showing him a portfolio. He said it's good, and he also asked me to give him a packet. See, I'm gonna eat this up. Let me see if there's any questions. If there's no question, I'm gonna end this. So this is what I. Are you an alumni at Academy of Art University? I'm not an alumni at the Academy of Art University. I didn't go to Academy of Art University for school. Actually, I should mention how I got hired at the Academy of Art University, and I taught there from 2000, the year 2000, all the way until 2021. So probably taught art classes there for almost 20 years. Yeah, so I was working in comics at the time, and then they were looking for a comic book artist to teach classes. This was when comic book art was starting to become like starting to become a boom. It wasn't like that important in the beginning, and when they found out that I was actually a guest speaker, so I started going to classes. I would talk about my art as a comic book artist, and every so often they would just ask me to go. And one day they asked me, Walden, would you like to teach a class here in comic book illustration since you're a comic book artist? And I said, sure. What do I need to do? I don't know, just interview, type of resume, and then see what happens. And then I didn't type in I didn't type a resume because I figured, if they hire me, they hire me. If they don't hire me, they don't hire me. I'm just gonna go there instead of turning in a resume. I'll just bring a few pretty comic books that I worked on, put it inside a FedEx envelope, and just drop it off. So I drove there, and then like I walked inside to the admin building. And I said, "Oh, can you give this to Chuck Pyle and Lisa Barrett, a packet for each of them?" What is it? Oh, is this? It's just my resume. My name is Walden Wong, and then they thought it was a resume. They opened it up, and it was comic books that I worked on. And I guess they flipped through a few pages, and then they contacted me back and hired me as a comic book instructor at the academy. And I was teaching there for a good 20 years. Yeah, I stopped teaching there because the pandemic happened. And then after the pandemic, I started getting busy with other work. So I never actually continued teaching there. So I taught there for a good 20 years. So these are my the commissions that I finished working on today. I'll be doing more podcasts. And before I go, let me see if there's any questions. Chainsaw Man. Teaching is an app. I so love that you guys are talking to each other. Yeah, feel free to let's see. Feel free to listen to my stories and also talk to each other. Have you ever thought about doing a Kickstarter or create your own book anytime soon at all, Walden? I actually have thought about doing a Kickstarter. I want to do a book called Ink Book, okay, which is like a book of all the commissions that I worked on in a hardcover black and white book. most of the commissions that I worked on, I saved it. I scanned it in high resolution. So I have the pencils and the inks. So I'm thinking of maybe having a book that has pencils on this side and then inks on this side, and maybe commentary on how I worked on it and just with different artists and such. So I did think about it, but that's in the back burner in the back of my mind for a very long time. So I thought about doing that. Can you also check them out in first and just see them before you send money on the full volume? Yeah. They have the Shonen Jump app, which you can look at the first few volumes before you start buying it. So that's pretty good. Shonen Jump app. They also have the Viz app, so check that out. Whatever you do, always buy originals. Always buy the apps. Always buy the volumes or buy the actual book. I like the actual books more, so you can bring it anywhere. Let's see. I like Mark's Visual art. It's an amazing comic book artist. It has crazy twisted. Okay, Monster Magnus. Okay, looks like I caught up with all the questions. Anyone else ask questions before we call this podcast to an end? Nice to chat with you guys. It's been fun. Thanks for the live stream, Walden. Everybody take care and catch you all next time. Thank you all for joining. I'll have more live streams in the future. Here's some of the commissions that I worked on today. It's the ink smudge, which I'm going to clean up later. Here's this commission that I've done for Castle Comics again. Castle Comics, they worked on these books. If you want to find out more about them, here it is. Okay, and here's some of the characters, and here's also another book by Castle Comics. And if you want to find out more about me and my work, my website here is waldenwongart.com. And if you want to check out my Patreon page, it's patreon.com/waldenwongart. And this is the end of podcast Draw With Me number 4. Every time I draw different numbers, what I do is I just erase this and draw a different number. So thank you again. Enjoy. Have a good time. And until next time, please, before you guys go, hit the like buttons. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.